Have you had any clients with attention deficit? And another thing is dementia.
I've worked not with dementia, I worked with strokes, and I worked with attention deficit. I worked with ADHD, ADD. There was a Toronto pediatrician at Toronto Sick Children's Hospital, and it's one of the premier children's hospitals in the world. I mean, it's really world class. He's from Vienna and trained there and came over to Canada, really nice pediatrician. But he had nothing for the kids other than to offer them Ritalin and Dexedrine, and he said, I've got so many patients on Ritalin, or Dexedrine, whatever. And I said, do the parents want them on it? He said, no, they hate it. I said, do you want them on it? He said, no, I can't stand it. I said, then why are they on it? Listen to this. The teachers at school were telling them they needed to be on it. So the teachers are recommending a drug for a kid. They've got a little boy. Oh, he's acting up in school. He's looking around. He's talking to people. He needs to be on Ritalin. He's ADHD or ADD. And so you have teachers making a medical diagnosis, or did then anyway, this is what I ran into, and wanting to medicate a little boy into being quiet and calm, even though he's not a little girl, he's a little boy. Little boys have testosterone and they're more rambunctious, and that's normal. And so he wanted me to work with some of his patients. He sent me maybe about 8 over the years, and the protocol I used was this. We did not see attention deficit as a disorder. We saw it as not even an attention deficit. We saw it as too much attention. Everything gets their attention. Oh, shiny object, squirrel, what did you say? Everything is catching their attention. And so by taking that further, it's what Dr. Tad James said, and I think he was completely correct. He said, ADD appears to be the inability to go into trance. That's all it is. That's that model. And that's what my model is. Just saying it's a model, but it's a useful one. Because most kids can go into class and sit and zone out and still get good grades. But the ADD kids are looking at everything and talking, and they're not focusing. So my method of treatment was I bring the child in, find a way of getting them into trance despite the fact that they're not able to focus very well, because everything's pulling their attention away. And I'll give you an example in a second. So then we install a trance. He and I, or she and I, install a trance. So I think it was everyone was a little boy I dealt with. And then I give him post-hypnotic. So when he goes into class, sits down, he puts his hand on his chin, he zones out, goes into a daydream, which is his trance state. And guess what happens? The kids' grade levels go up. Almost immediately, they start getting better in one semester. And what sometimes happened was the teachers would then complain, because the problem in their mind wasn't that the grades have gone up. He's not paying attention. He's zoning out. He's daydreaming. It's like, you can't fix stupid. I've said that for years. You cannot fix stupid. But to see how hard it is to get kids with ADD, ADHD in a trance, you have to find a method. And there was a very noteworthy case, came into my office. His mother brought him in. She hadn't even noticed he'd come in wearing his bedroom slippers. I mean, just flew out. And she said, we have a big house. He's got a tricycle upstairs. The kid was about 8 or 9, I guess. I don't know. Can't remember. Riding his tricycle up and down at 11 p.m., kicking a soccer ball around, bouncing off the walls. And sometimes it would just stop. And she'd wait a few minutes and go up, and he'd be fast asleep. And she said, some nights he just goes to sleep right away. I don't know how he does it. I said, have you ever asked him? She said, no. I said, well, he's sitting here. Why don't you ask him? She said, well, Eric, how do you fall asleep quickly those nights? He said, oh, that's easy. I love cats. And he said, when the cat is on the bed, I want her to stay. So I stay still and I wake up and it's morning. That's it. He's now given me the entire way to do therapy with him. And Nancy Rinaldi, my friend who was a physical therapist in the same office, we shared it, had a picture of a cat on the wall. I said, Eric, do you know what an neurophile is? He said, no. I said, somebody who loves cats. I said, I'm an neurophile too. I love cats. I always have my whole life. Cats love me, always. Even nasty cats love me. He said, I'm like that too. I said, do you like Nancy's cat in that picture? He said, yeah, that's a nice cat. I said, close your eyes. Pretend that cat jumps up in your lap and you don't want that cat to move. Bang, 30 seconds. He's in a powerful trance. We install the programming and the rest is history.
Wow. I was asking because as many therapists that I've been asking about this, majority wouldn't take ADHD clients.
Yep.
And why I'm interested in dementia because I was caring for my mum for 3
Yeah.
years with dementia, and I did start doing some things with her, you know, and I was always, we always had healing music in the house.
Yeah.
And even though she was very, she just couldn't sit still, you know, she
Yeah.
was constantly on the move.
And
But with the music, she actually could relax.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just interesting.
That's nice. And we know so little about neuroplasticity. I know if we're looking at new neural pathways, we're creating protein kinase C, which builds them in. And one of the things I obviously, because I'm not a medical doctor, I can't prescribe, but I was very careful what I said. I don't prescribe, I didn't diagnose, and I never treated for serious problems. But I could say to the person, friends of mine have found it really, really useful to take fish oil for the brain. No, she's like, I'm not saying, and I'll even say, I'm not telling you that you should take it too, because I can't prescribe. So I would never say that. And anything like that.
Yeah.
When I work with stroke victims, I get
Yeah.
them on, get them thinking about the possibility of taking omega-3 fish oil as well. Not the full spectrum. We get too much 6. We have enough 9, but the 3 is the one we need. And supporting the brain, like you said with the healing music. I mean, that's freaking brilliant because you're finding in all the different modalities the things that help and work together. And so right on with that one.
Mm.